Humble hosts, the volleyball team clinched first in the RSC East Division and will host the tournament this year. On to semifinals, the women's soccer team advances to the next round in the postseason, and Pioneer Pride. Our reporters debate whether or not having pride in our athletics department is an important part of the college experience. It's time to come on down to the Pioneer Sideline. Good evening and welcome to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm Nicole Pampina. We'll start tonight with the volleyball team, who ended their season seated first in the RSC East Division. An exciting matchup this past weekend. I did not have the pleasure of being there, unfortunately. Played IU East, always a big matchup there. They were number 3 in the East Division this year, but walked away a 4-setter with a W. WVU Tech was the main competitor in the East Division, lost to IU Kokomo and put Point Park 2 games ahead. We are hosting the RSC tournament this weekend. I don't even remember when this last happened. They lost that first set 26-24 on Friday, but Madison Sima, 13 kills for her. Jaslyn Rozier hitting .333 for a percentage. Bianco and Minoski both having double-doubles. Huge games for them, and then kept that momentum going against Ohio Christian on Saturday. Beat them 3-1 as well. It was senior day where they honored Julia Minoski, Brittany Bianco, Haley English, and Maria Ferragonio, clutch players in the team. 4 players were in double digits for kills, and then there were 12 aces total. So what can we take away from this weekend? The team is firing on all cylinders and setting them up in a very nice position for the tournament on Saturday. This is the best I've ever seen them play. Ended 22-8 in their overall record and 12-4 in the RSC. And on Friday, we play Asbury, number 4 in the RSC West, to start off. Whoever wins that game, they will play either IU Kokomo or IU East on Saturday. So big weekend ahead. That game's at 11 a.m. We'll be broadcasting from the Point Park Sports Network. I'll be on the call for a few of those if you listen in, but we'll see what happens. I'm very excited for this team. We now turn things over to our self-proclaimed senior mascot correspondent, Sarah Gibson, for this week's Mascot Mania. Sarah?
Thank you, Nicole. In minor league baseball news, the Rocket City Trash Pandas, a minor league baseball team set to start playing in Madison, Wisconsin next year, are gearing up to reveal their new mascot just before the holiday season. While we don't know what he looks like yet, we do know what his name might be. Trash Panda season ticket holders and other Trash Panda Nation members are being tasked with voting on one of the 6 pre-selected names. There's Apollo, Buzz, Crash, Cosmo, Jetson, and Sprocket. I don't know about you guys, but I think Sprocket is a pretty good one. I can't wait to see this team unwrap their mascot before the holidays, and I can't wait to see how the Trash Pandas mascot performs in his inaugural season. And in this week's Mascot of the Week, I'd like to introduce you to Colonel Cobb of the Concordia College Corn Cobs. The Colonel was invented around 1920 to go along with the team's corn cob name. However, for a long time, Cobb was just a walking ear of corn with a poor student stuffed inside. But in 2006, they gave him a makeover into this mean green popping machine. What's even better is that recently, Concordia College has introduced Niblet, who is Colonel Cobb's little cousin, who fulfills a sort of flat Stanley role within the student body, going on adventures and getting his picture taken. To see those, just search for #NibbleTravels on Instagram. As for me, I applaud the Colonel for fulfilling the duty of the mascot, which is being an authoritative or scary figure to spook the other teams while being conceptually the least scary thing I have ever heard. Quite frankly, it's amazing. Sorry, back to Nicole.
We love Niblet here at the Pioneer Sideline. Thank you, Sarah. When we come back, our reporters will discuss the beginnings of the basketball seasons and the continuance of women's soccer season. Don't go anywhere. All right, go. Go to our new website, uview.pointpark.edu. Go, 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 go.
Join UView and Join EOP. And 3, 2, join EOP.
I was just saying, grab them now, or else I will snap.
Yeah. Join on point with politics. 3, 2, 1.
Join Pioneer Sideline.
Loneliest number that you'll ever do.
Welcome back. The women's basketball team started things up in Michigan and have slowly been making their way back to CCAC Allegheny. To detail the season so far, we bring in Colton Tobias. Colton, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Nicole. Great to be back as always.
So let's start off this team. Recap so far. What's been happening?
Sure, Nicole. So the women are currently 1-3 at the moment. I see a slow start to the season, but the good news is those are just non-conference matchups, so down the stretch, these games aren't really going to matter for this team as they still have, I believe, 5 games left to go until their first conference game, which will be on December 7th against Carlow University. So that's pretty much all that's been going on now.
Who are some standout players we see so far? What's happened on the court?
Well, this Pioneers team has had a lot of returning players that have been really stepping up for this team. And the first start off, you got Michelle Burns, who is the points leader for this team so far. Tyler Rim is the rebounds leader, and also Michelle Burns is also the assist leader as well. And then you got senior Tyra James, who is the steals leader. Excuse me.
Do you see that as an advantage, having so many returners come back?
Yeah, I think so, because their chemistry was so dominant last year. Even though they finished with an okay record last year, but I really think that this team is going to really put on a really special show this year, as they have a lot of returners, like I just said. I think Michelle Burns really impresses me. I mean, she knows how to get those balls to the basket, so I'm really excited to see what they're going to be doing this season.
Now, that being said, maybe taking care of business on our side, but any worries whenever we do hit those conference matchups? I mean, who are the face-offs that we're kind of looking at right now and a little worried about?
Ooh, well, on the top of my head, I'm really not sure because, well, I mean, I think with this, I think every River State's conference game is going to be important for this Pioneers team down the stretch, So I just think that they're just going to have to stick to their game as much as they can down the stretch, and I think they'll be just fine.
Now, switching over to the men's side, you said they just came back from Miami. Kind of recap that for us. They're 2-2 right now.
Yeah, so sure, Nicole. So actually, their home opener was actually at CC Allegheny against Penn State Du Bois last Tuesday. I was on the call for the Point Park Sports Network. Pioneers were able to come out with a huge win. And then, just like you said, Nicole, they traveled down to Miami for 3 games, finishing with a 1-3 record in those games. So they are currently 2-2 at the moment.
So what are some we know with last season maybe a little bit shakier, not as strong as we would have liked. So what are some strengths and weaknesses that you've noticed so far when you were on the call?
Well, I think some strengths with this Pioneers team is a lot of fresh faces, as the Pioneers have really only had like 2 or 3 players on the roster that I can remember who were on this team last year. Players such as Mark Shahadi. So I'm really impressed by the newcomers who are coming in, especially like Juan Willis, who had to sit last year because he was redshirt, and then you got Xavier Prince and Sharon Shafino. So I was really impressed by those players with how they played last Tuesday.
Now, fresh faces, you never know. You never know how it's going to go. Do you see this as an opportunity moving forward after rebuild to kind of run with it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Nicole. And also not to mention, this is Joe Lewandowski's first full season as the head coach of this Pioneers team. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. And especially with these players as well. I guess you could maybe think of a weakness as how they have got to build their chemistry. But I think at this point, I think like anybody can have a starting spot on this team. So I'm really excited to see what this team is going to come about down the stretch.
Great. And when can we see them in action next, if you happen to know?
Let's see. I'm not sure yet, but all I know is they do have 4 non-conference games left until their first River States conference game, which will be against Carlo as well.
Great. As winter sports start to file in, our first snow today, we're in full force here. Thank you so much, Colton. The women's soccer team is advancing to the semifinals. Taylor Spirito joins us now to break down that quarterfinal match for us. Taylor, thank you for joining.
Of course.
So how did that game go? Break it down.
So they pulled off a 2-0 shutout against WVU Tech. They lost to WVU Tech earlier in the season, not even really earlier in the season. It was October 24th, where they lost 3-1. The difference in these 2 games is that in the October 24th game, WVU Tech pulled out an early lead 3-0 at the half. This one they held them off 0-0 at the half, despite the shot advantage that WVU Tech had. They were 7-2 in shot advantage at the half, 15-8 final. But yeah, they had a great game against them, and they're moving on to face Asbury, who's the #1 seed tomorrow, actually.
Another Asbury game. Look at that.
I know.
So who were some of the clutch players in the postseason so far?
So the 2 people who scored the goals, very, very early on in the second half, we've got Taylor Goldstrom, Tia Haru. We've been talking about them all season, but I want to put an emphasis on Ashton Webb. She's been clutch for this team, especially in the back half of the season. But I mentioned the shot advantage, 15-8 for WVU Tech at the end of the game. 9 of those shots were on goal, and Ashton Webb stopped every single one of them. Like I said, we've been talking about her all season. She's been the starting goalkeeper for all of the games. At least in my recent memory, I can't think of one that she wasn't the starter. And there were a few games where she struggled a little bit, but I think she came in completely clutch in this game, and that shows with the shutout.
Now, when we hit that Asbury game, because now things start to heat up, what can we expect from them, from the other side, from Asbury?
From Asbury? So they actually went 7-2-1 in the conference, but their overall record sat at 8-9-1. So they are on a win streak of 4 games going into this postseason, and since they're the #1 seed, they had a bye in the first round. They actually won the last meeting that Point Park had against them on October 5th, 5-0. So they were shut out in that one. Point Park was. But the thing that Point Park has been doing well coming out of that game and early in the season is that they've been putting on their defense. They've been keeping these high offensive powered teams, and they've been putting them on hold. And that goes to show in the WVU Tech game, holding them off 0-0, going into the second half. So I think that if they want to pull out a win against Asbury, a team that kind of dominated them earlier in the season, they need to put their defense on high alert and go at least 0-0, 1-0 even, maybe even 2-0 going into the second half, and then taking over like they did in the WVU Tech game.
Now that's short term, looking more long term. The big question, do you think they have what it takes to win an RSC championship for the 3rd time in 6 seasons?
So I think that all of the pieces are there. We've got Ashton Webb, Taylor Goldstrom, Tia Haru, and so many other players that have been continuing to impress. I think that if they can get their defense on lock, then it'll be so easy. You can see how hungry these girls are to get those wins, especially when they, didn't impress early on in the season. They didn't score their first goal until, I think it was like the middle of September. And that was a disappointing start for them. And I think that they're starting to, or at least they, have started to, get that frustration out, and that goes to show in these games. But I want to see them put their defense on lock, because I think that's going to be the big difference breaker if they want to win a championship. Like I said, I think all the pieces are there, but it's just putting them all together at this point.
Now, when can we see them against Asbury?
So they play against Asbury at Asbury tomorrow in Kentucky. It starts at 7 o'clock, so be sure to keep a lookout for that. It should be a very good game.
Absolutely. We're looking on Twitter for score updates. We've got to hold on to our seats this week between these 2 teams in postseason. And thanks, Taylor. Whenever we come back, we'll dive into the regional and national headlines from over the week. Don't go anywhere.
What's one word to describe CAB?
Welcoming. Community. Creative.
Experiences.
Family. Openness. Pineapple.
The Campus Activities Board is a student-run organization that consists of 7 different committees. Each focuses on event planning, marketing, and administrative activities. Join us in organizing the juiciest events on campus, from late-night bingo to festive dances to our team bonding meetings. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Point Park Cap, or like us on Facebook at Campus Activities Board at Point Park University.
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. I'm Josh Troop alongside Jess Paterchak.
Defending his decision to kick out 15 Cuban diplomats from the United States.
Thanks, Allison. Fitness on Demand has returned to Point Park.
Residents fear that Mount Agung will have a repeat of 1963's eruption.
2-star NFL quarterbacks made the headlines this week after wrapping up.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. That's your news tonight. For Nick Tomarello, I'm Alex Grubbs. Have a great night.
Welcome back. Trevor Ulichny joins us in studio now to break down the news from the black and gold and the blue and gold. Trevor?
Thanks, Nicole. The Pittsburgh Penguins are coming off a huge win from Thursday night as they defeated the New York Islanders 4-3 in overtime. Brian Russ would be the OT hero, helping the Pens as they came all the way back from a 3-0 deficit. Now on the Saturday, the Pens returned home to the friendly confines of the PBG Paints Arena. They would face the Western Conference Chicago Blackhawks. Dominic Kubalik opened up the scoring for the Hawks in the second period. Moments later, Patrick Kane scored and would add the lead on to make it 2-0. Jay Getzel would score in the second, and Brian Russ would be the hero in the third to tie it up at 2-2. Regulation and overtime wouldn't be enough for these two teams, as a shootout was needed. Jared McCain's shootout tally was all it would take, as the Pens would win 3-2 over the Blackhawks. Their next game is Tuesday night, as he will head to MSG to face the New York Rangers. Sidney Crosby is out indefinitely with a lower body injury and is not expected to be in the lineup. Coming off a huge 20-10 win over Georgia Tech, the Pitt Panthers are bowl eligible again and will host the North Carolina Tar Heels at Heinz Field Saturday. On the Pittsburgh Steelers, Sunday evening they picked up a huge win over the LA Rams to win their 4th straight game and improve their record to 5-4. James Washington had a bust-out game, recording a touchdown. He also had 6 receptions for a total of 90 yards. Mason Rudolph went 22 for 38 for a total of 242 yards. The Steelers' defense came up huge late in the 4th. Minka Fitzpatrick had a late interception to seal the deal. The Steelers win by a final of 17-12. The Steelers' next game is Thursday night as they head to Cleveland to face the Browns. That's all for regional. Back to the desk with Nicole.
Thank you, Trevor, but don't go anywhere because I hear you also have the national sports news for us.
That's right, Nicole. Saturday night, a mighty clash took place between LSU and Alabama. In a back-and-forth battle, the LSU Tigers would come on top over Alabama by a final score of 46-41. LSU Tigers' Jamar Chase would be their star of the game. He had a total of 6 receptions for a touchdown and 140 yards total. Tigers QB Joe Burrow continued to lead the Tigers. He went 31 for 39 for a total of 393 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. On the Alabama side of things, Devontae Smith was their star, a total of 7 receptions for 213 yards and 2 touchdowns. QB Tua Tagovailoa went 21 for 40, a total of 418 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. A close one in the end of LSU came on top, improving to 9-0. Alabama gets their first loss of the season, dropping to number 4. The Baltimore Ravens continued their dominance Sunday afternoon. They stomped, dropped, and rolled all over the Bengals by a final of 49-13. Lamar Jackson, who started the game, went 15 for 17, throwing for 223 yards and 3 touchdowns. Robert Griffin III would come in later as things got out of hand score-wise. He went 3 for 5, throwing for 20 yards and 1 touchdown. The Ravens continued to dominate the AFC, improving to 7-2. The Bengals continued to fall lower and lower into the basement. They are still winless on this year and falling now to 0-8 on the season. Also this weekend, longtime sports broadcaster Don Cherry was released from Sportsnet after some controversial comments made. He was with the company for 35 years and stepped down. And the Florida Panthers played the New York Rangers the other night. The Florida Panthers would win 6-5 in a shootout. The Rangers were outshot 35-34. Vincent Trocheck would end it in the shootout for the Panthers, sealing the win. That's all for National. Back to the desk with Nicole.
Thanks, Trevor. After the break, it's everyone's favorite segment, Case of the Week. This week, is Pioneer Pride important to pioneers? We'll be right back.
The United Student Government at Point Park University, working since the 1970s to solve the issues that matter to you. What concerns do you have about the university? Student life, safety, food service? Send us an email to studentconcerns@pointpark.edu or stop by our office on the 7th floor of the Student Center. You can also attend our weekly open meetings on Mondays at 3:15. Follow us on social media at USG_PPU for more. The United Student Government, by the students, for the students.
The Point Park Sports Network, bringing you live coverage of Pioneer Athletics on Stretch Internet, the home of the River States Conference and the NAIA. Subscribe today for complete access to the Point Park volleyball, baseball, basketball, and soccer teams. Watch live and on-demand broadcasts and don't miss a minute of Point Park Athletics. Head to pointparksports.com/live for broadcast listings. The Point Park Sports Network, your streaming home for Point Park Athletics.
3, 2, 1.
Please visit our website. Please, it's a nice website. Please visit our website. Please.
If you have ever watched television, whether accidentally or on purpose, YouView is for you.
Welcome back to Pioneer Sideline. For this week's Case of the Week, we asked our reporters if Pioneer Pride is an essential part of the college experience. To debate, we bring in now Trevor Ulichny and Colton Tobias. Thank you for coming back for us.
You're very welcome, Nicole.
There's only 3 of us here, so this will be very casual. What do we think about Pioneer Pride on campus? What are our thoughts?
You want to go first?
Yeah, go first.
All right. So I think Pioneer Pride is very, very important for any campus, and there's not enough of it around here. And also, it would help if you could buy Point Park Pioneer merchandise online instead of paying $30 for it in the bookstore.
I thought you could, Trevor. I mean,
no,
you can buy hats. I know that.
I looked.
Do you mean jerseys or do you mean just gear?
Gear in general.
There is gear.
Yeah,
there's lots of gear, man.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to the right place.
Library, bookstore, lots of gear. I think we don't sell jerseys. I mean, we're not NCAA.
We do not sell jerseys.
We're NAIA. I mean, I always thought that was kind of weird, though. Like, I'm on Pitt's campus sometimes and seeing people walk around with, Kenny Pickett jerseys, and it's like, he's also a student. It's just a weird dynamic to me, but that's a whole other debate. That's a completely different case of the week.
For a different case of the week.
In terms of here now, Pioneer Pride, Colton, where are you running with this?
Well, I mean, I think there is a lot of Pioneer Pride on campus to begin with, but I think athletic-wise, I just don't think it's enough. I mean, I see people all the time wearing Point Park gear, but I think the athletic department deserves a lot more because you have been around the athletics department, Nicole. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of students really don't go to a lot of games, and I think the reason is everything's off campus except for volleyball. I mean, soccer's over at Highmark Stadium, and then basketball's over at CCAC Allegheny, and then baseball and softball are over in Green Tree. So I mean, it's hard for people to get out there.
I don't see Highmark Stadium as an issue though. It's a bridge walk away.
I
walk that all the time. It's literally a 15-minute walk. So I see that as on campus.
And CC Allegheny isn't bad either. I mean, all you have to do is just take the T and then walk up the north side. You're there in 15-20 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And and to go off of your point, we'd expect more. I mean, the men's soccer team and their unbelievable performance.
Dominant this season.
And now volleyball, I mean, they're just doing phenomenal. We have good teams. And cross country track, they've always been pretty good, but it's kind of hard to watch a track meet, if we're being honest. And that's no shade at all. But it's not like we don't have bad teams. The talent is there, so the students should be there too.
And it's a shame, Nicole. You're right, especially with soccer, with the unbelievable season they had. And unfortunately, I really don't even think I saw a single fan there with the games I went to. I went to one volleyball game. I mean, that was pretty fun, and I think it's a lot easier for people to go to volleyball because it's on campus. But there was a pretty good crowd with basketball last year, even though CC Allegheny was, I'm going to say, about half full for most of the games. I think maybe a little less. So I would maybe like to see a bigger turnout there. I don't know. We'll just have to see how they do overall with the season.
Now, I don't know if it's because we're a performing arts campus or what, so I don't know if it's just the culture or if we're NAIA, but like what do you guys think it is that the reason why there's like not an apathy, but not this strong pull towards like, yeah, Pioneers, yeah, let's go, you know?
Well,
I don't know.
I think you hit it right on the head. We are more of a performing arts school, and I think the focus is around the other things around campus in the arts culture. The sports culture in this school is not high student-wise, and it should be. Like you said, the boys' soccer team, unbelievable season this year. They're still dominating, and the boys' basketball team is promising. They're 2-2 so far, but I think they have a lot of potential. And same thing with volleyball. You know, it's right on campus. It's right over in the gym. And you said you went to a couple games. It was fun, but still. I think, and another problem is, I think promotion is. I think there's not enough They're not promoted enough, the sports teams.
I kind of disagree to that, Trevor, because I think
they're
promoted. Like they're promoted enough. I mean, I always see flyers outside of school. I mean, our communications director Kevin Taylor, I think, does a phenomenal job on trying to get students out the games. I mean, I remember last year because he runs all of our social media, and I remember him saying last year about how he gave like a step-by-step rule on how to get the CCAC Allegheny by taking the T and all that. So I don't think it's promotion.
I don't think it's
the problem.
It's promotion. I think it's just trying to grab their attention.
And that was gonna lead me to another point. This is good. This is the most heat we've gotten in a case of the week this semester. But with the sports network, I know it's subscription based, and there's not much you can do about that. I mean, unfortunately, like you got to pay somehow, or you have to for Stretch Internet or providers.
Or we need sponsors for that.
Yeah, and you need. I don't know if you need an easier means to watch the sports. I don't know if students would sit down and actually watch them on a TV, or if they would listen to them if PJ were to broadcast them. So, I'm not sure if exposure is the issue here. Is it the smaller? Can you guys think of any other schools of similar size and similar dynamic that what their sports teams are? I don't know if there's any that come off the top of your head.
Well, I think it's a little difficult to debate that, Nicole, because there really isn't a lot of NAIA schools around here. I mean, I guess Carlo's the only one that can come to mind, but like everybody around here is NCAA, and I think that's kind of where it comes from because I mean the NCAA is a lot bigger than the NAIA.
I agree. We don't get the exposure like. For example, Pitt Panthers have their own TV network. They're on TV, the basketball team and football. We don't have that.
And not to mention they share they share the same field as the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That is very true. That is also a very big factor in all that as well.
Money talks. I think a big part of it comes down to just money talks, and I think it is the climate. I think it is the culture a little bit. I'm so sad to see it. I wish that more people cared about sports. Obviously, I chose to go to a school like this, so can't be too salty about that. But I really think it's just the nature of the school we go to, and it's just really sad because we had a lot of success this season. So they deserve to have that come out.
There's a lot of good sports teams in the school. Like you said earlier, they put a lot of effort and hard work into it, and I think it'd be nice if the students will come out and support them to show them their hard work. And it's really disappointing. It really is, but I just don't know what they could possibly do. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've done everything they possibly could. Like you said, they have the Twitter page, and
Facebook, and Instagram, they have them all.
And you said, like you said earlier, the posters around school, and we're here, and we promote them the best we possibly can. And I just don't know what else we could possibly do.
And also
it's very disappointing.
And also not to mention, there could be some more sports. My dream for the Point Park Athletics Department is to have a football team and also maybe a hockey team as well. But if that would ever happen, that would be way after we're gone. So I think there's really not much under our control with that.
Now football, I would love to have a football team. We used to have a hockey team in the 70s, and I think just interest dropped off, if I remember correctly, and that's why we don't have it anymore. breaks my heart, the fact that we used to have one and not anymore.
I would love that. Would be great.
I think if you would bring it back, though, I mean, I think there would be people who would love to play
I think it would be a good way to drive in sports fans,
I would.
too. So, especially because with a sport like hockey. But that's all we have time for. That was some good. Thank you, gentlemen, both for joining us today. And that's all the time we have for this week. Be sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer Sideline.